Okay, so we are going to start off talking about the endocrine system. You can see we have the same glands as our quadruped friends do. They are just going to be positioned in a slightly different manner. Even our brains are going to be differently shaped just a tad, but we still have the same glands. So same glands, same hormones are getting produced, functioning in the same manner. So our endocrine system is a series of glands, and these glands are going to release hormones into our bloodstream. These hormones then are controlling what happens in our body. So our nervous system is sensing things, right? So our nervous system sends signals that say, hey, we have too much oxygen, we have too little oxygen, hey, we don't have enough water, we need to stimulate some of this, um, like a desire to drink, or we need to stimulate a desire to eat because we're hungry, right? You guys have gotten that tummy feeling where you're all like rumbly and you're tumbly. So those are things that are being stimulated from our nervous system, but also from the endocrine system, from the hormones. So it's they work together in tandem, which is why we talk about them right after the other. And that endocrine system is going to maintain those hormone secretions for extended periods of time. So we trigger, hey, we need to start doing this thing. So your uh, endocrine gland starts secreting hormones, then your cells pick up and your nervous system's like, oh wait, we actually have too much of this hormone now, so let's stop that production. So you have this give and take with your endocrine system. So we're going to break down the different glands and look at just a base overview. At the end of the lecture is going to be another crash course video on the endocrine system. Again, he does a great job at just breaking down the system into its components and what it all does. So before we can really dive into the glands, we need to understand what hormones are. Now, when you get into your animal science classes and your medical instruction at the college level, you will be responsible for knowing the different types of hormones and knowing what those hormones do. Here we don't need to know that. Here we just need to know that they exist, and we need to understand that there's releasing factors and there's inhibiting factors. So there's those hormones that when we talk about releasing factors, they are going to cause a secretion, right? They are going to cause the release of a chemical substance or the specific hormone. Then we have what we call inhibiting factors. And so when we're inhibiting something, we're restricting it or we're preventing its effectiveness. So inhibiting factors are going to restrict the secretion of specific hormones. So your body, again, is going to be, your glands have this ebb and flow of releasing factors to inhibiting factors. And these hormones are found in every organism, and they're going to work in tandem together as far as releasing and inhibiting factors. And some hormones are going to be specific for certain organs. Some hormones are going to affect your whole body, all right? So those are the hormones. Now we'll talk about each gland, because each gland does and is responsible for a different section of your body, which is why it's in different places. So in our nervous system, the brain is the control center. So it only makes sense for the hypothalamus, which is our control center of our endocrine system, to be located in the brain. So the hypothalamus is part of the brainstem. We see an image of the canine brain right there, and then down in the corner is a human brain as well. Hypothalamus is located in the same spot. It is going to produce releasing and inhibiting factors, and it is going to talk to the pituitary gland. So hypothalamus is going to say, all right, I need to send out some releasing factors to start some hormone production, or hey, wait, you know what? These afferent neurons are coming back. I need to send out some inhibiting factors because we got too much hormone production going on. So the hypothalamus talks to then the pituitary gland. All right. So your pituitary gland is also in your brain. You have an anterior and a posterior lobe. Um, they are responsible for different pieces, but we're not going to dive into that. Just be aware that your pituitary gland does have two parts to it. It has an anterior and a posterior. Your pituitary is your master gland, all right? So it is secreting the hormones that control all the other glands. So the hypothalamus talks to pituitary, but then the pituitary is talking to everything else. It's your master gland. So think about it, it's almost the middleman, right? So it gets signals from the hypothalamus, and then it says, oh, all right, I guess I'm going to tell this gland to do that and that gland to do the other thing. So your pituitary is that master gland, and it is secreting hormones to control the other glands in the endocrine system. So we're just going to go from cranial to caudal when we're talking about our glands. So the first gland that we're going to refer to or talk about is our thyroid gland. So you guys will hear about diseases called hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. This is Addison's disease. So these are going to be common, or at least seen in your veterinary clinics. Your thyroid is responsible for your metabolism. So it's going to be your metabolism as well as kind of your energy level in a way, or like your mood, so aggression. So your thyroid gland produces a hormone called thyroxine. Kind of makes sense. Thyroid, thyroxine, yeah? We can do blood tests. We'll do a T4 test, and we can check the levels of thyroxine in the blood. So we'll check for T4. There's also another hormone called T3. I'm not sure what the full name is on that, but it is on our blood tests. Those things are going to be able to tell us if an animal has hypo or hyperthyroidism. And if you may know somebody in your family or somebody that you know that also has hypo or hyperthyroidism, they tend to, again, have fluctuations in their weight. People with hyperthyroidism tend to have a more thin or high metabolism, right? Because your thyroid's affected, your thyroid controls your metabolism. So we tend to see people with hyperthyroidism have less body mass, and then hypothyroidism, we tend to see greater body mass, and that equates into animals as well. This image is a human thyroid, but again, your pieces are going to be fairly similar. The only your vena cava and your veins and your artery placement is going to be a little different depending on the animal, but the gland is still in the thyroid. It's still in the neck of the animals. And this is why when we take radiographs, we're going to wear a thyroid shield, because we need to protect this gland. If we have radiation in this gland and this gland is controlling our metabolism and our growth, we can do a great deal of detriment or damage to the rest of our body. So we want to protect that thyroid. If you know anybody who does not have a thyroid, because sometimes they do take it out, they will remove thyroids, you generally are going to find that person possibly on supplements, and just making sure that they're controlling and monitoring their diet. Next gland we're going to talk about are our adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands are going to sit atop the kidneys. So we can see the adrenal glands right here of a canine, and this is the same placement for all of our animals, even for us. So we do have adrenal glands right on top of our kidneys, and your adrenal glands are going to regulate your glucose levels, also the retention of your water. So makes sense, right? If my adrenal glands are regulating water, what better organ to be on top of than my kidneys, which we'll talk about next week, which regulates our water, right? It helps filter out our blood, which in essence is our water source in our body. So adrenal glands being right atop the kidneys, it makes sense. And when we learn about the urinary system, it'll make even more sense with that and what the kidneys do. Adrenal glands do produce a small amount of estrogen and androgens, which are our sex hormones, or what we think of as our sex hormones. And they are also going to release hormones that assist with our sympathetic nervous system. Remember, our sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight reflex. Okay, so they are going to be secreting hormones that assist in that, and they are being right on top. The kidneys is really close to our bloodstream. But to be fair, they're all kind of connected. Next is our pancreas. So our pancreas is what is responsible for secreting insulin as well as glucagon. So insulin, we do know it lowers glucose levels, and glucagon is going to increase glucose levels. So those of us, if you know someone with diabetes, right, your animals or you, then your pancreas is not working at 100%. So your pancreas is what's responsible for your insulin and your glucagon. If for some reason if you need to have your pancreas removed, we don't like to do it. It's not great because then your body has no way of producing its own insulin or its own glucagon. So then you definitely would be on insulin. If you had a pancreas removed, and you'd be on some other medications as well. So your pancreas, regardless of what you are, what animal, is going to reside in and close to your gastrointestinal system, as it is assisting in that food processing and being right kind of there. So if you think about your insulin and your glucagon as your food, right, your sugar levels in your blood go up or down based on what you're eating. The location of your pancreas is close to your intestines. So it is going to be intermingled in your abdominal cavity. It is that white kind of bumpy looking tissue right there. And it is right attached to that small intestine. So it is going to be there for you. So that is your pancreas, or your animal's pancreas. If you have what you'll find in the vet clinic is pancreatitis, and there's not a definitive cause for pancreatitis. Animals will have like upset abdominal cavity, they'll be in pain. And so we just give fluids and we manage to the best of our abilities. A good amount of time, pancreatitis is caused from high fat diets, or if an animal has like just an extra fatty treat that it's not used to processing, it can cause inflammation of the pancreas because of just the oddness of the fattiness of the feed, and just kind of how it processes out. So there's your pancreas, and the pancreatitis is going to be something that's pretty common in your clinic that you see. There's not a definitive test for it, but we put a few things together and then you're like, aha, it's pancreatitis. And then last but not least, we have our gonads. So if you've ever heard of something called gonadotropin, it is where we get our gonads from. So it is our reproductive organs. So testes for males, ovaries in the females. And again, your gonads are your reproductive glands. Yeah. So they're going to be secreting hormones that are going to induce ovulation in females. They are going to promote the development of sperm, as well as your other secondary characteristics. So your gonads are producing your testosterone, your estrogen, all that good jazz. They are what is causing your eggs in your fallopian tube to become ripe for fertilization. We'll get a little bit more in detail into that when we talk about reproduction. But for here, we just need to know that gonads, your testes and your ovaries, are a part of the endocrine system for our animals. And then again, make sure you watch this video. It does break down really well what the endocrine system is, and you will be tested and responsible for knowing the material that is in this video. If you'd like some extra points, shoot me an email just with subject line endocrine. And then in the message body, let me know any connection you can make. If you know somebody who has hypo or hyperthyroidism or an animal, if you've had any experience with an animal or with a human with diabetes, any connection you can make to the endocrine system. So go ahead, shoot me an email, subject line endocrine, in the message body, any connection that you have with this lecture. If you don't know anybody with any of these conditions, or if you don't know any animals with any of these conditions, then shoot me a question or something that you found fascinating. All right.